Let's take a minute to talk about the different forms of interpersonal interaction and the dynamics of 3-digit sequences that have a 0 in the middle. So the first one I want to talk about is 101. 101 is just one being interacting with another being. There is no real depth here. So a great example of this would be sports, playing sports. It's literally one being, one body up against another being, another body. Okay. This is not like therapy. Therapy goes way deeper than that. Therapy goes through all of the realms, right? But this is just an interaction that lacks depth. This is just one being, one body, engaging with another being, another body. And let me clarify a little bit as well before we get into 202, which is where it gets a little bit deeper. This is not necessarily just one being interacting with another. This is also the mirroring effect. In other words, this is where judgment comes in. This is where the human nature, right, that is judgment, comes in. This is when one being is critiquing, observing, judging another being as it relates to the various realms. Okay, so when we get into 202, what are we talking about? We're either talking about two individuals sharing their mindset, because that is the number 2, how they relate to the world, or judging how someone else chooses to relate to the world, judging someone else's mindset. I previously made a video on this. Road rage is often a result of 202 energy. Judging how someone else is driving, judging how someone else may or may not allow someone else to get in. It could also be many other things, right? What are examples of how we relate to the world, right? A variety of different things. How we navigate relationships, the type of partners we choose, right? Our eating habits, our activity habits, right? How we choose to spend our time, right? What we focus on, what we choose to talk about, right? This also pairs in with 4 energy, right? This is a double up of 2 energy. It's very closely related, right? But it's an example of that. Judging how someone relates to the world, judging someone else's mindset. And that can relate to a plethora of things. 303 energy. This is one that is very prominent in this 3D reality, right? Because we are focused on material matters as human beings. So an example of this would be either judging someone else's manifestation or simply commenting on it, right? Have you seen what so-and-so has manifested? It's never going to be worded like that by most people. It's going to be more like, did you see her new house, girl? Do you see the new car she got? Things like that, right? It's just a focus. She got a new job, girl. She's doing so good. Right? 303 energy, right? Focusing on the material matters, on manifestations. Or, girl, do you see all the weight she lost? Right? That's 303 energy. Physical manifestations and recognizing that as it relates to another individual. Now, 404 energy. This is where it can get quite sticky, you guys, because this is where high passions arise, right? When we're talking about a perspective that we hold, a worldview that also pairs with 2 energy, right? The mindset. But the perspective, the level of awareness, right? Politics fall into 4 energy, fall into 404, right? So political debates, you know how heated those things get. Those conversations can destroy families, right? But in addition to that, it can be anything, right? A lot of the burden held by spiritual people is this energy, because we hold a level of awareness that many others don't. And because of that, there is a natural inclination towards judgment that comes with that. And it's not out of malice. It's out of a desire to help and a desire to help the entire collective ascend. And in order to do that, you need to bestow additional awareness on people. So ultimately, it's important to pair this with kindness, right? As much as possible. And just be aware, right? Approach this energy. 404 energy with awareness, right? It should go without saying because of the number, but we need to allow it to take place without making us bitter, and bring forth kindness, bring forth compassion whenever you're dealing with this kind of energy. If you see yourself falling into this sort of energy, be mindful. 505 energy, the plot thickens, right? Because we have the karmic number here. So this is often someone, girl, did you hear so-and-so's man cheated on her? and she's still with him, right? This is 505 energy. This is judging how someone else is navigating a karmic cycle. This is judging how someone else is navigating karmic matters. This is judging someone else's karmic state and karmic mindset and inability to see beyond their current negative cycles, repetition, and circumstances. Despite the fact that we ourselves often have, are, or will be going through the same thing at some point in time, right? That's why we must always approach things with compassion. Always. Because 87 energy will pull it into your life real quick. It is now your turn to bear the weight of what you once judged. Yes, as a compassionate friend, as a loving friend, it is and can be helpful to try and help someone navigate karmic matters, but it's not always going to end well because it's heavily associated with the mindset and someone's belief system and someone's level of self-worth. So be very careful when choosing to do that. We have to allow people to grow at their own pace. You don't have to continue being a part of that person's life. But if you want it to end in a more amicable manner, be wise. Now 606 energy. This is going to sound something more like, girl, she just had a new baby. She's doing so good. Her and her man just bought a new house. They're co-creating together, right? This is co-creative energy. 3 and 3 equals 6, right? This is the building. This is the new life chapter. That's what 60 energy represents, right? So this is a new life chapter. This could be a new job, a new home, a baby, getting married, right? 20 paired with 60, right? Energies can fall into both of those categories, but this is going to be and yes, there's a light and dark aspect to all of these things, but I'm choosing to focus more on the positive, right? It could also be something like she lost her house, but that also falls more into a 50 cycle, right? Or an 80 cycle or a 70 cycle, depending on the details. But this essentially is a new life chapter, new diurnal manifestations. Now, 707 energy, the plot thickens even more, right? This is the dark side of karmic matters, right? 5 energy is already difficult as it is. 7 is even more so. So this is going to be like, girl, she's with this new man. All he does is stay on the couch all day, make her work all the time, right? Or he's super narcissistic, right? Or another example would be like, girl, she's back on drugs and so on and so forth. This is heavy 70 energy, right? An addiction, darkness. Or she just got diagnosed with cancer, right? This is a very difficult cycle, 70 energy, okay? So always approach these circumstances with compassion. It is better to not even really talk about it because you would be surprised at how quickly the universe will pull you into your own, right? Depending on how you are able to love those in this time. All right, let's get to 80. So 80 energy, okay, this can go a couple of ways because of the nature of 8. We can have here like, oh, karma's getting her, right? She's reaping what she sowed, right? What goes around comes around, right? She judged me, now she's getting hers, or so on and so forth. That's the nature of the justice aspect of 8. But this could also be like, look at her shining. Look at her finally harvesting what she's worked so hard to accomplish. Look at her rising through the ranks of her career. Look at her being recognized for what she's so good at, right? Look at her living a life of balance, right? The thing about 80 is people are more often going to talk about the dark side of an 80 cycle or 808 energy. Because of human nature and the jealousy that's involved in being human, a lot of times people don't talk very much about people doing well. Which is unfortunate, right? Because I would love to hear, you might hear from your friends, like, you're doing so good, like, you're so balanced and strong and resilient and wise, but you don't usually hear those kinds of comments from people, do you? You know what I mean? People more so comment. They might think it, they might feel it. But essentially, it's up to you to feel that about yourself and recognize that in your own growth, right? Don't depend on others to validate you. Because if you are doing that well, it is going to naturally come with a lot of hostility and opposition. So keep shining. Now, as we get to 909 energy, this can be interesting. And I want to use narcissists as an example because narcissists are heavy carriers of 9 energy, hence the discard concept, hence the ghosting concept. What are these all examples of? Endings, which is ruled by 9 energy, okay? So a perfect example of that is all of these videos on the internet judging narcissists for how they choose to end connections. One person's way of ending, judging another person's way of ending. That's essentially what it is. We are judging how they maneuver. We're judging how they navigate relationships and essentially how they choose to end them. And reinitiate them, because that's also governed by 9 energy, right? Leaving, coming back. Leaving, that's heavy 9 energy. That's heavy 9 energy. Another example of this would be, let's say someone that is doing the inner work and growing spiritually and making the difficult decisions and using their discernment to release certain habits, connections, patterns, right? And free themselves from certain cycles. Judgment might come from someone else who doesn't release, who doesn't leave anyone behind, who keeps people that are dead weight, who keeps people that are not trustworthy and have betrayed them and are toxic and negative energy and all of these things. You will be judged as someone who can release yourself from those kinds of people. Or you will be judged by people who cannot change their ways, who are not willing to do the inner work. That's another example of 909 energy, right? It's almost like my inability to initiate new beginnings and endings is judging your ability to easily do so. Another example, right? 9 is also the number of mastery, right? In any regard, mastery. So an example of this, especially as it relates to one being judging another's, right? One being's mastery, judging another person's mastery. This is the guru gauntlet, right? These are the goats. These are the goats of any field. And when debates come in or disagreements come in, right? Because it's a higher level. It's just a higher level. Everything's on a higher plane when you're dealing with masters of a craft. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to share this information with you guys today. These are essentially human interactions as it relates to numeric sequences, right? So we have 101, 202, 303, 404, 505, 606, 707, 808, 909. Take care.